Hi, to our viewers. Welcome to this exploration of some Thai traditional theater. I'm pleased to introduce you to my good friend, Sura Intamool, who is a researcher and doing his PhD currently at the National University of Singapore. Under scholarship from the National University of Singapore with Harvard's Yenching Institute. And he's also a lecturer, a full-time lecturer at Chiang Mai University in English dramatic literature. And I'm very thankful to you today. And I'm going to call you Mao because I know you as Mao. That's your nickname. And so thank you for joining us. And thank you for doing this and for taking time out of your busy work schedule to talk with us about this theater genre altogether. And also too for contributing to our understanding of play. And in theater, of course, play is such a big deal. And that's, of course, the topic of the conference. What I would like you to do is to introduce us to luang, if I said that correctly. And you're writing a thesis that's subtitled "The Change in Continuity Within an Institutional Genre of Thai Theater."
Okay. The Lakon Nok แบบหลวง performance that we are watching at this moment for 1 minute. This is a performance. The story is about the king and the queen who have 7 daughters and in-laws. And this one that we are seeing in the middle is the heroine and the hero of the story. And as the title of the performance is Sang Thong. Sang Thong, this one, you see the man in the middle here with a sort of bald head here. In fact, he is this one. Yes, this one. In fact, he is a charming prince in disguise, and he conceal his charming prince image inside the ugly appearance, and then the heroine or the princess, the woman in the middle, is the only one who can see that charming prince in disguise. I mean, his real self. And then for this scene, her father, the king, he cannot see the charming prince, and he tries to get rid of that guy. So he set up a scheme that all his in-laws, 7 princes have to go to catch fish as much as possible. And the king intends to get rid of, because he at first he expect that the last in-law whom he would like to get rid of will catch just a few fish, and then he will take that to kill him or kick him out of his palace. But the situation turns upside down, because he is the one who get most fish, and then he how can I say, he distributes some fish to other in-laws. Like he got like 100 fish, and then each one get like two or 3 fish for a person. That's all.
Okay. All right, well, let's take a look at the clip, and then we'll talk further.
คำทับคำถามหัวเองหรือเปล่าเนี่ยนี่หัวเองข้างผม
Oh, I forgot to tell all of you one thing. All of them are male. This is all male cast performance.
Interesting. Interesting.
Mhm.
So what is it that about this genre of theater that sort of catches you as a researcher? What's your interest in it? Why have you been researching this particular genre of theater?
Oh, I kind of the first reason is that I am interested in the change. I mean, the change in the evolution of the genre. It first originated as Lakon of commoners. I mean, it is a dance drama of commoners with all male cast in 17th century. And then King Rama II, who reigned Thailand during 1809 to 1824, transformed the genre to an all-female cast. First, all-male cast, and then transformed by King Rama II to all-female cast. And those females are courtiers, ladies in the court, at the royal court. So he transformed that to fit the preferences of courtiers, of court people.
Right.
And then the genre was called, after that, the genre was called Lakon Nok Bap Luang, because the adjective Bap Luang indicates how the genre follows the royal presentational styles.
Okay.
And then later, in 1987, the director of the Office of Performing Arts restored the tradition of all-male cast to the truth of the organization. This organization is responsible for maintaining all Thai traditional performances, particularly those of the royal palace.
Interesting. So if I can interrupt you for a second, there's something interesting about that to me because within my lifetime, they restored it back to a tradition where male characters or male people, male performers are performing female roles. And that becomes kind of institutional. And that's in my lifetime. 1987, I was like 16 years old. So that's actually fairly recent.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
So what's the significance of that? Like, that's interesting to me. Like, to restore that, like, that's got to be complicated.
I asked the informant, I asked my interviewee, and he is the one. At that moment, he was selected to play female character for the troupe. He said that because at that moment, the director, I'm going to call this organization OPA, Office of Performing Arts.
All right, right.
The director of OPA, he thought that the audience was bored of female cast. And then he said, okay, at this moment, we have male performers who can dance and who can play female characters. He said that. So let's do an all-male cast, like one in the ancient time again.
Okay, so then you've had a lot of experience with this, and I've I've presented to you the questions ahead of time, so you kind of know where I'm going. But you've had some experience with this too. You performed in such performances before too.
Oh yes.
What was that like for you?
At that moment, it is a sort of how can I say? I was quite. It is a kind of eye-opening experience for me, because At that moment in 1997, Ray, when I was like when I was 20 years old, and 25 years ago, once upon a time. And then at that moment, it is the first time in my life when I knew that a guy can cross-dress. I mean, at that moment, a guy could cross-dress as a woman on stage and perform Thai traditional theater. That moment,
So
my
just to
friend,
so just to make it explicit, like so that there was a traditional role for something that you had personally wanted to do. Is that right?
no, at that moment, I don't know, because my friend just asked me, "Hey, Sura, come and play in a Thai traditional performance." And at that moment, it is an event for, I mean, for a philanthropic organization. I mean, to raise fund for autistic children, and
Right.
then I just want to help them. So I get, okay, fine, I can cross dress as a woman. And then at that moment, I was assigned to be the Queen Nanta, the mother of the hero of the story. I kind
Okay.
of, oh, that's just quite, I mean, that is quite, as I said, it is an eye-opening experience for me. And that is the moment, the first moment in my life when I knew the word Lakon นอกแบบหลวง. So I participated in those drag shows, but this one is totally different from the drag shows that I participated, because it requires time for rehearsals. It requires time for me to learn how to do some practice some Thai traditional dance, and to, how can I say, to perform for an organization in front of almost 3,000 audience in that auditorium. So it means something for me. It means something for me. And that is, I think that is it is the beginning for my intellectual journey as well. Because from that point, it leads me to my second master at Miami University, because that is the first time that I conducted my thesis about this genre of performance.
Right.
And then later at my PhD, at this moment that I am working on my PhD dissertation with this topic.
And I think some of the cultural aspects of this are particularly important because you've done this research kind of in three contexts. You've done it in Thailand and in Singapore and in the United States. Was there differences in the reception of your work in those different places? Because I could imagine that there was some, maybe in Singapore, this is just a guess, and maybe I'm wrong, but imagine in Singapore, there might have been more resistance to it than there would have been maybe in Boston. People are like, yeah, cool, let's look at this. But can you tell me about that? Like, was there a difference in reception in places you were doing your work?
That is, thank you for the question. Yes, different receptions for different locations. Even in the US, I got accepted to present my paper at ETHR in the US, which is the National Theater Conference. That is a big event in the US. When I was at Miami University, and that is quite funny for me.
And that's in Ohio. Miami University is in Ohio, just for anybody here that doesn't understand.
Not at Florida. No, no, not that one. That one is the University of Miami.
Yeah, right. Okay. So Miami University in Ohio.
Yeah, that one that I went for my master. That one is in Ohio. People in Ohio seem not interested in what I was doing as though in big cities.
Right.
You know, okay. So when I attended many classes and I talk about my this genre of performance, people tend to they were not quite interested in the topic. But then when I premiere my idea about this genre of performance in relation to Thai society with the existence of queer people in the society. That's why this performance with all male cast is accepted in the society when queer people perform female characters.
Right.
And then they are those people at the conference were really interested in the topic. And then in Singapore, that is quite different as well because of the penal code of 377A in Singapore, which criminalized to homosexual males consenting to conduct sexual sexual intercourse, yes, sexual relationship. That code makes the situations more complicated. It is quite hard for me to speak of my topic in class. In class, even the class with the focus on feminism. You can forget about queer theory, even in because the class people, the majority of people in the class don't even talk about or rarely talk about feminism. It is impossible to talk about queer people in that kind of environment. So it is, I found myself quite hard, a hard time in Singapore.
Oh, did you feel, so just to ask a little bit about that, because that's super interesting to me. You feel stifled by that? Like stifled meaning like so sort of suppressed. You couldn't kind of be yourself.
No, Ray, I how can I say, I have been prepared for this kind of thing before going to Singapore.
Okay.
But I went to Singapore with an optimism, an optimistic idea that, okay, I might conduct my research about queer people related to the genre of performance. But you know, as you might know, that my topic was changed during my my thesis topic defense. In fact, I focused explicitly on queer people in this genre of performance, and then my topic was shifted. It was to the topic that I am working at this moment.
Right. So I don't want to go into that could be very political for you. So I don't want to ask too much about exactly that, but much more about your sort of experience. Do you feel like after the topic shifted, did the shift feel okay for you? Like, are you fully like, do you resent or regret anything about having to shift the topic?
How can I say? I try to think positively with what I get at this moment.
Mm.
I think it is good for me because the topic that I am working on at this moment, it helped me to not just focus on that only aspect of the performance.
Right, right.
So I think it is a blessing in disguise as well, Ray.
So
That
the broadening away from just specifically queer
right,
theory or
right,
that type of
right,
thing actually could be beneficial. You see it that way?
right, right, right,
Right.
and to help me look at the overview of
Mhm.
this genre of performance. And one thing which is, oh, I totally forgot to mention Harvard Yenching Institute at Harvard University in Boston. That one is quite different, Ray,
Okay.
because people they are liberal, and they are super okay with the topic related to LGBT, I mean LGBTQ people,
Mhm.
and academic, how can I say, the academic atmosphere at Harvard is quite happening. I mean, I have, it is an golden opportunity for me to see other people from various kinds of fields, and it helped broaden my views for the topic that I'm working on as well.
Right. So that's an interesting comment because, of course, this conference is an interdisciplinary studies conference. So the fact that you said that there's people from a variety of backgrounds and viewpoints and outlooks is very interesting for me as an interdisciplinary studies director. But also, too, it might be for our students. Does that breadth actually improve you as an academic? Like, are you a better academic because you had that exposure to that breadth of input and other students and academic environment? Does that make you a better researcher?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. If you asking me if in that kind of environment help broaden my views,
Yeah.
sometimes particularly the ideas of culture. I happen to know an Indian friend who came to Harvard by the scholarship of Harvard Yenching Institute as well. And hanging out with her, helping me to be interested in Indian culture, which is the root for Thai culture as well.
Yeah,
Because
sure. One of the main roots of Thai culture is
yes,
Indian culture.
yes.
Yes, right.
Much of Indian culture was embraced, was adopted and localized to Thai culture. And then hanging out with that Indian friend of mine helped me to be interested in food and some cultures. During the time that we hang out together, that one helped me to go and research more about Indian culture, which become part of my thesis as well.
And in fact, I will stop us there because I think that we're well over time, but I have appreciated so much everything that you've shared with us, Mao. I'm so excited about the fact that you've shared with us about this and shared your research. I thank you so much for your time, especially because it's incredibly late at night already. I think it's close to midnight your time in Thailand.
Oh yes, 15 to midnight.
15 to midnight. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll stop there. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.